Hello and welcome back to another video. So in this video we are going to take a look at localization in Ktor and how you can do internationalization or localization for different messages that your server return to the client. So first of all, we are going to need to add a dependency here because we are going to use the i18n plugin for Ktor. So you can find the code in the description. I'm just going to paste a dependency here. Oops, actually I need to sync. That was a mistake. So after that, I'm going to add it to my dependencies block here. I'm just going to duplicate this and replace this with i18n, just like that. And then I'm just going to sync Gradle here in my project. Now, we need to install the i18n plugin. Of course, just like all the other plugins, we just do that via an installation block. So use the install i18n, just like that. And why is this not okay? The I needs to be capital, I guess. Yes, that's correct. So i18n, just like that. And now we just need to do some configuration for the i18n. This configuration is simple. We have default language and available languages, basically. So I'm just going to, for the available languages, just going to do English and Arabic because that's what I know. So just EN for English and AR for Arabic. And for the default language, we can just stick for English here or whatever language you want. So now we've set up the i18n plugin, let's see how we can define our different string resources, or strings if you want to say that. First step is we need to go to the resources directory here in our project. We need to create a new directory called messages, and inside messages then we are going to create a new properties file for each language that we would like to support. So I'm going to create two files here. First is going to be messages _en for English, and then dot properties, just like that. Hopefully I got that correctly. And yes, let's add this to Git. And I'm going to create another file for Arabic. So I'm just going to copy paste that, replace the en with ar, and yes. So let's start by defining some messages here in English. So what I would like to localize here for this tutorial is the errors when we add a new fruit. So in our fruit routes, we have add fruit here, and then we have validate add new fruit. And here the validation logic, basically we have some hard-coded errors. As you can see, this one here, field name is required. So let's just localize those. Let's create an error message for a missing field. So we can say error, for example, field dot required. So you're allowed to use dots here in these properties files. So this message is going to say field is required, basically. And in Arabic, let's actually copy the key so we don't have any issues. And we can say al-haql matlub, which is the little translation. And okay, so we have both our keys defined here. Let's see how we can read this with the current language requested by the client. So I'm just going to go here, or let's go to the validation block where we need to supply this message here, and we are going to use i18n, and then we're going to pass the key. So as you can see, we are not able to call the i18n function from here, but if we go to the fruit route here, inside the post block here, or inside any method, basically, if you do i18n, we have access to the function, and we can just pass the key and it will return the translated string for us. Now the reason that this works is that it needs to be called from a routing context here, which this is a routing context. For example, this post block here, so this works. And since we are using the validation function here from our routing context, we can also make this function extend or make it an extension function of routing context to be able to call the i18n function from there. If you don't know what I mean, don't worry, we'll just do that right now. Just make this function an extension function of routing context, which is this one from Ktor. And now if we scroll down, we can see that we can import the i18n function just like that, and we can now pass the key to our string, and we will get a localized string. Now what we need here is this one, the key. So I'm just going to copy that and pass it to the i18n function here, and let's make that translated error like that, and then replace this with translated error. Now with just this one replaced, we can test our server. We can just try to run, and here is Postman. So if we try to add a new fruit, let's try to add without a name, for example. Okay, it says image is required. Let me see what's wrong here. Okay, because like it's an error in our validation, because it's completely null. So let me pass an empty name, and this should trigger, yes, as you can see here, field is required. And let's try to see if it returns the Arabic error. So if you go to headers and add a new header, accept language, this is what we're looking for, and pass AR here and resend the request, it will say here al-haq al-matlub, which is the translated error that we want to see. Okay, so that's the basics, but what if we want, as you can see, the error tells us that there is a required field, but it doesn't tell us what is a required field that we need here. So we can do that by passing arguments to our translated strings here. So instead of field is required, we can say field, whatever, add a placeholder here, and that field is required basically. So we do that by introducing these curly brackets here and just adding the name, the number of the what placeholder do we have here. So we can have more than one placeholder in the string, of course, and since we only have one here, we just start with 0 and we end there. And I'm going to add the same to the English, to the Arabic translation here. And now I'm going to go to the request validation file, yes, right here. And now the i18n plugin allows us to get the translated string, but it does not support passing arguments, or unfortunately. So we can use the message format function from Java to help us add placeholders to our translated string. So what we need to do is we can say message format here from Java text, and we can say dot format, and as you can see, that takes the pattern or the string that we want to inject those placeholders to, and then it takes our arguments, which here we want to say name, for example. And instead of passing the just translated error, we want to pass this. So let me just pass that here, and let's rerun the server and see how this works. Okay, so if we send the request again, it will say al-haq name matlub, and let's change the language to English. Send again, it says field name is required, or if that's correct, yes. So that's the basics basically of localization or internationalization in your Ktor server. Now to improve this, as you can see, the process of getting the translated string using i18n and then passing the arguments can be not very convenient. So what I like to do is I like to create an extension function for it, and just that extension function would allow me to easily get translations for my different strings or my different messages that I have. So what I'm going to do is in utils here, let's just create a new file. I'm gonna call it localization, just a file, and here I'm just it's going to be a function, extension function of routing context dot translate, and here it's going to take a key and our arguments in form of var args, just like that, and those are going to be strings, and it's going to return a string. Okay, so basically same logic as before. First we need to get the translated message, so we're going to say message is i18n, and we pass our key, but then we need to check the arguments if we have any arguments for that message. So let's say return if args is empty. We just return the message, and if it's not empty, we just use the message format from Java like we did before, and we use this star here to basically extract the arguments because it's a var arg, and since it's a var arg, we can have more than one argument passed here, so it's basically like an array. So we use that to extract it right here, and it should return the correct one for us. So here, anywhere in our server, when we need a translation, instead of doing these two steps, now we can basically say here, oh yes, we need to delete the whole thing here. We can say translate, just pass the actual key, and then pass the name here as an argument, and we won't need to interact with this, and this should give us the same result as before. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you like it, dislike if you dislike, and leave any questions that you have in the comments. I hope you learned something new, and I see you guys in the next lesson. Bye bye.